I rescued an alien warrior. Now she wants to raise a family with me. Ethan Carver had always loved the quiet of space. The hum of his ship's engines, the soft blinking of instruments, and the endless stretch of stars beyond the viewport gave him a sense of peace he could find nowhere else. He had spent years exploring the fringes of the Orion expanse, mapping uncharted systems and studying strange phenomena. Most days were quiet, almost uneventful, but that was exactly how he liked it, until today. A sudden blip on his radar made him sit up. The signal was faint but deliberate, a distress call coming from a sector that was supposed to be empty. Ethan frowned. "Distress signal," he muttered to himself, adjusting the sensors to analyze it. The readings were unusual, a vessel heavily damaged, moving slowly and emitting intermittent bursts of energy. It wasn't a human ship. Ethan's curiosity was immediately piqued. He piloted his ship closer, keeping a cautious distance. As he approached, the shape of the vessel became clear, sleek, metallic, with jagged edges that hinted at a military design. It was not just damaged, it had clearly been attacked. Smoke and sparks leaked from various points along its hull, and he could see flashes of energy, signs of its internal systems struggling to function. Ethan knew he should report it, but something about the signal felt urgent, personal. He had always been a man who acted when he saw someone in need. He keyed the comms. "This is Captain Ethan Carver. I am responding to your distress call. Identify yourself." There was silence. Then a voice came, deep and firm, carrying the weight of authority. But it was strange, it wasn't human. The words were accented, harsh at first, then translated automatically into English. "Human vessel, we are under attack. Assistance is required. Immediate intervention necessary. We are Scifi." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. The Scifi were known in galactic history as warriors, diplomats, and explorers, but contact with them had been extremely rare. To hear one calling for help, that was extraordinary. He didn't hesitate. "Hold on, I'm coming in." Ethan maneuvered carefully. The raiders that had damaged the Scifi ship were still in the area. Small, fast vessels, armed with energy cannons, circled the crippled ship, waiting to strike again. Ethan's ship wasn't a warship, but he had some experience in combat from training simulations. He activated the defense protocols, diverting energy to the shields and charging the small pulse cannons. The first shot was fired by a raider, grazing the hull of his ship. Sparks flew, and alarms blared. Ethan's hands moved instinctively, dodging and weaving, shooting back at the raiders. One vessel exploded, then another narrowly escaped a hit. He could see the Scifi ship struggling to stabilize itself, drifting closer to a nearby asteroid field. If it crashed there, it would be destroyed for sure. Ethan made his move. He positioned his ship between the raiders and the Scifi vessel. "Leave her alone," he shouted, though he knew they couldn't hear him. He fired a calculated shot that disabled one of the raiders' engines. The small fleet faltered, unsure what to do. Inside the damaged ship, a figure moved with agility that surprised Ethan. She was tall, armored in metallic plates that shimmered in the dim light of her ship. Her movements were precise, efficient, even though she was injured. Her eyes, sharp and amber, studied the raiders, and she gestured, giving commands. Ethan realized she was no ordinary being. This was a warrior, a leader, someone trained to survive in the harshest conditions. Ethan managed to get a tractor beam locked on the Scifi ship. Slowly, carefully, he began towing it away from the danger zone. The raiders, now regrouping, fired again, but Ethan's shields held. His pulse cannons fired in quick bursts, taking out another raider before it could close the distance. Finally, after tense minutes that felt like hours, the raiders fled. Ethan exhaled, hands trembling slightly from adrenaline. He looked at the Scifi vessel, still barely holding together, and keyed the comms again. "It's safe now, you're clear." There was a pause. Then the voice came again, calm this time. "Human, you have our gratitude. I am Kayla. You saved my life." Ethan felt a mix of relief and curiosity. "Ethan Carver, happy to help. Are you hurt?" Kayla's voice carried a hint of strain. "Minor injuries." "My vessel, it will not survive another encounter. We need shelter." Ethan guided her toward a nearby space station that was lightly used but fully operational. "I know a place. We can stabilize your systems there. Hang on." The journey was tense but quiet. Kayla remained silent for much of it, though Ethan could feel her presence through the comms, a mix of vigilance and caution. When they docked at the station, Ethan helped her board safely. Kayla moved slowly, still limping from injuries. Her armor was scratched and dented, but her posture remained strong. Ethan offered a chair. "You need to rest," he said. She sat, finally lowering her guard just enough to allow herself to relax. "Human, you are different from what I expected," she said. Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Different how? You are compassionate, brave. Many in your species would have ignored my call or exploited it." Her amber eyes met his. "You chose to act. That is remarkable." Ethan felt a flush of pride mixed with surprise. "I just do what I think is right." Kayla studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Then we are in agreement. You saved my life. I will not forget it." Over the next few hours, Ethan helped Kayla stabilize her ship's core systems. They worked side by side, exchanging small talk, learning about each other. Kayla was fascinated by human technology, the simplicity and adaptability of it, even though she had access to far more advanced Sarathi designs. "You humans are inventive," Kayla said as she examined his ship's controls. "You adapt quickly, even with limited resources." Ethan shrugged. "We have to. Space is a dangerous place. If we can't think on our feet, we don't survive." Kayla nodded. There was respect in her gaze, but also curiosity. "Perhaps that is why you were able to help me. Your species does not rely only on strength or weapons. You rely on ingenuity and courage." Ethan smiled a little awkwardly. "I guess you could say the same about your people. You fought those raiders like they were nothing." She allowed a small smile to cross her face. "Experience and necessity. I fight to survive. And to protect those I care for." The night passed slowly, with Ethan keeping watch while Kayla rested. He noticed how carefully she studied everything, even when injured. She was alert, aware, always thinking ahead. But there were moments, rare ones, when her guard lowered. He saw the exhaustion in her eyes, the slight tremor in her hands. Despite being a warrior, she was only alive, only human, or perhaps Sarathi in need of care. By morning, Kayla was stronger. Ethan had managed to repair enough of her vessel for minimal operation. But she would need more work before she could travel safely through the expanse again. She turned to him, her expression unreadable for a moment. "Ethan Carver, you have done more than rescue me. You have shown me kindness. Something I did not know I could expect in this part of space." Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. "I just did what anyone should do." Kayla studied him, her gaze intense but not threatening. "Perhaps your species is different. Perhaps you are special." Ethan chuckled nervously. "I'm just a guy trying to survive in space. I don't think I'm special." Kayla's eyes softened. "Perhaps not yet, but you have a quality that I will not forget, that may be important in the days to come." There was a long silence. The stars outside the station twinkled as if waiting for the next chapter of their story to begin. Ethan wondered what Kayla meant, but for now, he was content simply to have her safe. In that quiet moment, he realized something important. In the vast, endless reaches of space, life was fragile, connections were rare, and moments of trust, even between strangers, were precious. And somehow, he had found one of those moments, with a being from a world he barely understood, a warrior who had survived unimaginable battles, and now, because of him, had a chance to live. And deep down, Ethan felt that this was only the beginning. The morning sunlight filtered through the station's viewport, casting a soft glow over the repair bay where Kayla's vessel rested. Ethan had spent hours making temporary repairs, stabilizing the ship's core and patching breaches in the hull. Kayla observed quietly, her amber eyes scanning every detail of his work. She did not speak much, but her presence was commanding, and Ethan sensed her analyzing everything about human technology. "You have a unique way of working," she said finally, her voice calm but curious. "Your systems, they are simple yet effective. I would expect a being of your kind to have much more complex designs." Ethan smiled and wiped sweat from his brow. "Simple can be better, less to break, easier to fix, and more adaptable when things go wrong." Kayla tilted her head, considering his words. "Adaptable. That is interesting. In my culture, we rely on precision and strength. If something breaks, it is often considered a failure." Ethan nodded. "Here, it's different. We make mistakes, fix them, learn, and move on. That's how we survive in space." She studied him closely, her gaze thoughtful. "Perhaps that is why you were able to rescue me. You did not hesitate. You adapted. You survived the encounter because you were willing to change with circumstances." Ethan shrugged. "I guess luck helps too." Kayla allowed herself a faint smile. "Perhaps, or perhaps there is something more, something in your species that is remarkable." For the first time since the rescue, Kayla seemed relaxed, almost curious rather than vigilant. She allowed Ethan to guide her through basic repairs and maintenance. She watched as he adjusted energy flows, reinforced shield matrices, and repaired minor systems. Every action was deliberate, efficient, but also creative. "You humans are clever," she admitted, her voice tinged with admiration. "Even with limited resources, you find solutions. You improvise in ways that I have not seen in the wider galaxy." Ethan chuckled. "We have to. Space doesn't wait for anyone." "You either find a way or you're gone," Kayla nodded, absorbing his words. "I can see why you survived where others might not. Your species values ingenuity over brute strength. That is wise." Ethan watched her carefully. Kayla's tone was more reflective than he had heard before. She seemed to be thinking about more than just the mechanics of her vessel. He realized she was also studying human behavior, trying to understand why he did what he did. "Tell me," she said after a pause, "what motivates you to help others? Why risk your life for a stranger?" Ethan leaned back, considering his answer. "I don't know if it's about heroism or anything like that. I don't like seeing people suffer when I can do something. Life is dangerous enough out here. If I can help someone, I will." Kayla's eyes softened. "Compassion. That is rare among warriors I have met. Most would calculate risk, value profit, or ignore the weak. Your actions, they are unusual, admirable." Ethan felt a warmth in his chest at her words. "Thanks. I guess it's not something we think about too deeply. It's just what we do." For the next few days, Kayla stayed at the station, slowly regaining strength. Ethan introduced her to basic human routines, meals, hygiene, rest cycles. Kayla approached these tasks with curiosity and a sense of discipline, learning quickly. She was fascinated by human food, though the flavors and textures were strange to her. "This is intriguing," she said, tasting a piece of fruit Ethan offered. "Sweet yet refreshing, your species has creativity in your sustenance. In my culture, food is purely functional." "Nutrition above taste," Ethan laughed. "Well, we like to enjoy life even in small ways." Kayla nodded, a thoughtful expression on her face. "Enjoyment, that is an interesting concept. Perhaps it is something humans value greatly." As they spent time together, Ethan noticed her curiosity extending beyond daily routines. She asked about human customs, about relationships, about families. She seemed fascinated by the idea of close bonds formed not just by survival, but by choice. "In Scifi culture," she explained one evening, "family is determined by bloodlines and duty. Bonds are important but often defined by obligation. Love is secondary, sacrifice is expected, but affection is not always encouraged." Ethan considered this. "Here we choose who we care about. Families aren't just blood, they're people we trust and love. You take care of each other because you want to, not because you have to." Kayla's amber eyes reflected a mix of curiosity and wonder. "Choice, that is liberating. And perhaps powerful. To care for another because you wish to, not because you must, it adds strength to your kind." Ethan felt a small smile. "It's not always easy, but it makes life worth living." Kayla remained quiet for a moment, her mind clearly working through the ideas. "Perhaps this is why I feel different around you. You represent something I have not experienced: warmth, kindness, freedom." Ethan glanced at her, sensing a subtle shift. The warrior's armor seemed less imposing now, her posture slightly more relaxed. He realized that Kayla, despite her strength, had never known a life without constant vigilance. Humans were offering her something new: safety, companionship, and perhaps a chance to experience peace. In the days that followed, they worked together to improve the station's small systems and to stabilize Kayla's ship for future travel. Ethan showed her how to manipulate human technology to her advantage. Kayla, in turn, demonstrated Scifi techniques for efficiency and precision. The combination was remarkable. Ethan began to understand why Scifi warriors were so feared in the galaxy. They were disciplined, intelligent, and incredibly capable. "You are quick to learn," Ethan noted as Kayla adjusted a power relay with surprising skill. Kayla's lips curved in a faint smile. "I have had much practice. Observation is essential to survival, and your methods are enlightening, different from what I have seen before." Ethan chuckled. "Glad I could teach you a thing or two." Their teamwork soon extended beyond technology. Kayla watched Ethan's interactions with other station inhabitants. His kindness to those in need, his patience with those who struggled, his ability to resolve conflicts calmly. She noticed the difference between human and Scifi approaches. Humans could be fragile, yes, but they were also adaptable, inventive, and deeply loyal. You are remarkable, Kayla said one evening as they sat watching the stars from the observation deck. Not for your strength, but for your nature, you inspire trust, loyalty, even hope. Ethan felt a warm flush at her words. I'm just trying to be the best version of myself, I guess. Out here you learn fast that everything counts. Kayla studied him silently for a long moment. Perhaps this is why I wish to stay near you, not because of necessity. Not because of duty, but for understanding, for learning, for something more. Ethan turned to her, surprised by her honesty. Something more? He asked cautiously. Yes, she said simply, her voice steady. Something beyond survival, beyond duty, perhaps companionship. Perhaps family. Ethan felt his heart race. The idea was incredible. He had saved Kayla's life, but he had never imagined she might see him as more than a rescuer. The thought was both exciting and humbling. For the next few days, their bond continued to grow. Kayla learned about human traditions, holidays, stories, and even humor. She found herself laughing at simple jokes, appreciating art, and listening to music with a curiosity that surprised Ethan. In return, she shared Sarathi customs, tales of ancient battles, and lessons in strategy and honor. You have a rich history, Ethan said one evening. Your people have seen so much, survived so much, it's inspiring. Kayla's eyes reflected pride and melancholy. Yes. We are strong, but much is lost to time. Many of my kin have perished. I have survived alone for too long, but you remind me that there is more to life than struggle. There is growth, connection, peace. Ethan nodded. We humans try to make our lives meaningful, even in a dangerous galaxy. We care for each other, protect each other, even if it's risky. Kayla's gaze softened. And that is what I wish to understand fully, to experience with you. The station's quiet hum surrounded them, a small sanctuary amid the vast emptiness of space. For the first time in her life, Kayla allowed herself to consider a life beyond battle, beyond survival. She imagined a future where she could belong, where she could grow, and where she might share her strength with someone she trusted completely. Ethan looked at her, realizing the same. Their connection was more than chance. It was a meeting of two worlds, two species, two hearts learning to understand each other. And in that understanding lay the potential for something extraordinary. As the stars twinkled endlessly outside, Kayla finally spoke, her voice soft but firm. Ethan Carver, you have given me more than safety. You have given me a glimpse of life beyond conflict, and for that I am grateful. Ethan smiled, feeling a warmth he had not expected. And I'm glad you're here, more than you know. In that moment, neither needed more words. They both understood that this was the beginning of something remarkable, a bond that could survive the void of space, the trials of conflict, and the challenges of two very different cultures coming together. And for the first time, Kayla allowed herself to hope, not just for survival, but for a life filled with trust, learning, and perhaps family. The calm days at the station were not meant to last. Ethan Carver had hoped that Kayla could rest and regain her strength, that the quiet of this distant outpost would allow her to recover from the battles she had endured. But space had a way of reminding those who wandered through it that danger was never far. It began with a subtle warning, a faint sensor reading on Ethan's ship, something out of place near the station's perimeter. At first, he dismissed it as a minor anomaly, a small asteroid drifting too close, but the readings persisted. The energy signature was precise, deliberate, and familiar. Ethan's heart tightened. Kayla noticed his tension. You are uneasy, she said, her voice steady but sharp. What do you sense? Ethan turned to her. There's someone or something approaching. And it doesn't feel friendly. Her amber eyes narrowed. The raiders, I think it's them or worse. They watched together as the sensors began to confirm their fears. Several small ships emerged from the shadow of a nearby asteroid field. They were sleek, armed, and organized. The same mercenary raiders who had attacked Kayla's ship, or perhaps allies, had tracked them to this station. Their intentions were clear. Capture Kayla, and anyone who tried to stop them would be destroyed. Kayla's hand went instinctively to her armor, though she was still weak from her injuries. They are precise, experienced, dangerous. Ethan's pulse quickened. He had faced threats before, but nothing like this. His ship was not a warship, and the station was lightly defended. He had to think fast. We don't have the firepower to fight them head-on. We need a plan. Kayla studied the approaching fleet, her mind moving quickly. We will not flee. That is not our way. We will use strategy, intelligence, and your ingenuity, human. Ethan nodded. Okay. Let's figure this out. They began to prepare the station. Ethan rerouted power to the shields, reinforced bulkheads, and set traps around the docking bays. Kayla helped him, directing energy flows and giving tactical advice. Despite her injuries, she moved with a precision and clarity that amazed Ethan. Her training as a Scifi warrior showed in every action, deliberate, efficient, and without hesitation. "You humans are creative in defense," she observed, adjusting a sensor. "I admire your ability to use limited resources effectively." Ethan smiled faintly. "We have to. Space doesn't forgive mistakes." As the raiders drew closer, the tension in the station grew. Crew members and civilians who had taken shelter began to panic. Ethan moved among them, calming fears, giving instructions. He realized that Kayla's presence was a calming influence as well. Her strength and confidence inspired trust, even in those who had never met her before. The first attack came without warning. Small craft zipped toward the station, firing energy pulses designed to disable shields. Ethan's quick calculations allowed him to intercept them with precision pulses, taking out one vessel after another. Kayla, despite her weakened state, moved alongside him, targeting strategic points with her advanced weaponry. Their teamwork was seamless, human ingenuity paired with Scifi skill. "Focus on the lead ship," Kayla instructed. "Disrupt its formation, the others will follow." Ethan nodded, adjusting the pulse cannons. He fired a calculated shot, hitting the lead ship's engine. Sparks flew and the small fleet began to falter, confused by the sudden maneuver. "Excellent," Kayla said. "Now target the weapons arrays of the next two, disable them." They must not fire simultaneously. Together they executed the plan. One by one the raider ships faltered. Shields overloaded, engines failed, and several craft spun helplessly in space before being destroyed. But there were more ships approaching. Ethan and Kayla realized that this was only the beginning. The attackers were organized, relentless, and they clearly expected to capture Kayla. They would not stop until she was in their hands, or dead. Kayla's amber eyes burned with determination. "We cannot allow them to succeed. Not here, not now. We must protect the station and its people." Ethan felt a surge of admiration. Despite her exhaustion and injuries, she refused to yield. "We'll do it together," he said. They worked quickly, reinforcing the station's defenses. Energy shields were strengthened, traps were set along corridors, and automated turrets were calibrated for precision targeting. Ethan's knowledge of human technology complemented Kayla's understanding of tactical combat, creating a formidable defensive network. The raiders attacked again, this time using coordinated maneuvers. They tried to breach the station from multiple angles, attempting to overwhelm the defenses. But Ethan and Kayla anticipated their moves. They used the station's layout to their advantage, channeling the attackers into narrow corridors where turrets could target them efficiently. Kayla moved with grace, her armor reflecting the flashing lights of the battle. She deflected energy blasts, neutralized intruders, and guided civilians to safety. Ethan marveled at her skill. She was more than a warrior, she was a leader, a strategist, and now an ally he could trust with his life. During a brief lull in the battle, Kayla approached Ethan. "Your species is impressive. You do not yield easily. You think creatively, adapt, and fight for more than just survival. That is remarkable." Ethan smiled, exhausted but determined. "We have to. It's the only way to survive out here, and it's the right thing to do." Kayla nodded, her expression serious. "Yes. That is what I see in you. Courage and compassion, a rare combination in this galaxy." The raiders launched their final assault, a concentrated strike aimed at the station's main docking bay. Ethan and Kayla coordinated their defenses, firing turrets, redirecting energy flows, and using every advantage they had. They fought side by side, a seamless team of human ingenuity and Scifi expertise. Ethan maneuvered a small fighter to intercept a raider attempting to breach the bay. Kayla provided cover, taking out approaching ships with precise energy blasts. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and the station shook with the force of the battle. Yet despite the chaos, they held their ground. Finally, the raiders, realizing their assault was failing, began to retreat. Their ships limped away, damaged and disorganized. The station's inhabitants cheered, relief washing over them. Ethan and Kayla stood together, surveying the aftermath. "You did well," Ethan said, his voice filled with genuine admiration. "We did well." Kayla's eyes softened. Yes, together, your species and mine working as one, it is effective. Ethan noticed a subtle change in her demeanor. The warrior who had been cautious and reserved now allowed herself a moment of pride and relief. You fought well too, he said. Kayla smiled faintly. I am not accustomed to receiving help, but with you I feel capable of more. Stronger, not just as a warrior, but as someone who can survive and thrive beyond battle. Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. You don't have to do it alone anymore. We'll face whatever comes next together. For the first time, Kayla allowed herself to consider a life beyond constant vigilance. She had survived countless battles, faced enemies across the galaxy, and endured hardship that would have broken many. Yet here in this station, with a human who had risked everything to save her, she glimpsed a different possibility. A life of choice, companionship, and perhaps even peace. Ethan, she said softly, I have never experienced something like this. Trust, partnership, safety. And yet I feel that this is what I have been seeking, even without knowing it. Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder, feeling the weight of her words. You don't have to face the galaxy alone anymore. I'm here, and I'm not leaving. Kayla's amber eyes reflected a mixture of gratitude and wonder. Perhaps this is the beginning of something greater, beyond survival, beyond duty, perhaps life itself. As the station settled into quiet once more, Ethan and Kayla worked together to assess the damage and plan for future repairs. They knew the raiders would return or others would follow. But they also knew that together, they were stronger than anything that came their way. Ethan glanced at Kayla, realizing that this partnership was more than tactical. It was the start of a bond built on trust, respect, and shared experience. And for Kayla, the battle had shown that humans were not weak or fragile. They were resilient, inventive, and capable of extraordinary courage. This galaxy, Kayla said quietly, is dangerous, but with allies, even unexpected ones, one can endure, one can thrive. Ethan nodded. That's the hope, that's what we fight for, and I think we just proved it. Together, they looked out at the stars beyond the station, a vast expanse filled with unknown dangers, wonders, and possibilities. The battle had tested them, but it had also strengthened their connection. They were no longer just rescuer and rescued. They were partners, allies, perhaps even the beginning of something more. And deep within that shared understanding, both knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The battle at the station had ended, but the echoes of it lingered in the hum of the systems and in the minds of those who had survived. Ethan Carver moved through the corridors, checking repairs and ensuring that everyone was safe. Kayla followed, her steps slower now, though her posture remained strong. She had recovered enough to walk steadily, but the events of the past days had left their mark. Yet despite the exhaustion, Kayla seemed different. There was a calmness about her, a quiet strength that radiated even more clearly than her battle presence had. She watched humans interact, observed Ethan's patience, his care, and his willingness to help others, and she began to understand something that had always eluded her. A life could exist beyond duty and conflict. That evening, Ethan found her on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. The distant lights of nearby planets shimmered softly in the darkness of space, and the station's quiet hum provided a comforting rhythm. He approached quietly. You're thinking, he said gently, not wanting to startle her. Kayla turned, her amber eyes reflecting the stars. I am, she replied. I am thinking about everything, about this place, about your people, about myself. Ethan nodded, sensing the depth of her contemplation. I understand, it's a lot to process. You've been through so much. Kayla's gaze returned to the stars. I have survived battles, wars, and hardship. I have faced enemies that would have destroyed any ordinary being, but nothing has prepared me for what I feel now. Not fear, not anger, but possibility. Ethan tilted his head, curious. Possibility? Yes, Kayla said softly. The possibility of choice, of life beyond survival, of connection. I have never allowed myself this. I have never considered a life that is not defined by duty or combat. Ethan moved closer, standing beside her. You don't have to live that way anymore. You can choose how you want your life to be. You can choose peace, safety, companionship, whatever matters to you. Kayla's eyes met his, and for a moment she said nothing. The weight of her thoughts seemed to hang between them. Then slowly she spoke. Ethan Carver, I wish to create a life that is more than battles, more than survival. I wish to experience family. To nurture, to care, to build with someone I trust, with you. Ethan's breath caught. He had expected gratitude, perhaps friendship, but not this. Kayla was offering something rare, a glimpse into her hopes, her desires, and her trust, and it was directed at him. Kayla, he began, searching for words that felt inadequate. I don't know what to say. You do not need to say anything yet, she replied, her voice steady but gentle. I am not asking for answers. I am sharing my intention, my hope. And I believe that together we could create something remarkable. Ethan felt a surge of warmth. He realized that this was more than an emotional bond. It was a recognition of strength, trust, and mutual respect. Kayla, a warrior from a distant world, had survived countless dangers, and now she was offering him a vision of a shared future, a life built together. I want that too, he said finally, his voice quiet but certain. I never imagined this, but now I can see it. I want to build a life with you too. Kayla's expression softened, and a rare, gentle smile crossed her face. Then we are in agreement. We will face this galaxy together, not just as allies, but as partners, as a family in the making. They spent the following days planning carefully. Kayla wanted to understand human life as much as Ethan wanted to understand Scifi ways. They talked about how they would combine traditions, how they would teach and learn from each other, and how they could create a home that honored both species. You humans value choice, Kayla said one afternoon as they repaired parts of her vessel together. You choose not just what to do, but who to be and who to share life with. That is extraordinary. I wish to learn more, to live more in this way. Ethan smiled. And I want to learn from you too. Your people are disciplined, strong, and wise. We can learn a lot from each other. Kayla nodded. Yes, together we are stronger than we were alone. We can survive, yes, but also thrive. The bond between them deepened with every shared moment. Kayla learned to appreciate simple human pleasures, the warmth of food, the joy of laughter, the comfort of quiet companionship. Ethan learned to understand the depth of Scifi culture, honor, resilience, and a dedication to protecting what mattered most. One evening, as they watched a distant nebula glow in vibrant colors, Kayla spoke again. Ethan Carver, I wish to build a home with you, not just a shelter, but a life, a place where we can live, learn, and perhaps raise a family. Ethan was stunned. The idea was extraordinary, almost unbelievable, but he felt a deep sense of rightness. A family, he echoed, the words heavy with meaning. You mean together? Kayla's eyes shone with determination. Yes, together, not just surviving, but creating something lasting. Something meaningful. Ethan took a deep breath, his heart full. Then yes, we will do it. We will build a life together, a family, a home, everything you hope for. Kayla reached for his hand, a gesture both human and Scifi in its simplicity. Then let us begin, she said softly. We have much to plan, much to learn, and much to build, and I trust you. Ethan felt a surge of warmth and pride. He had rescued Kayla's life, but now she was rescuing something within him too, the hope for a future, a life filled with trust, partnership, and love. The following days were a whirlwind of preparation. Kayla's ship needed more work, and Ethan's knowledge of human engineering proved invaluable. They reinforced the vessel, integrated systems from both human and Scifi technology, and designed spaces that would serve as a home, not just a ship. Kayla observed every detail carefully. This is comfortable, functional, yet human in spirit. I appreciate it, Ethan grinned. I wanted it to feel like a home, not just a machine. You have succeeded, Kayla said, and yet it is more than just comfort. It is a symbol of our partnership, our future. Their collaboration was not without challenges. Kayla's experience in war meant she sometimes prioritized efficiency over comfort, while Ethan's focus on human needs sometimes conflicted with her logic. But through patience and discussion, they found balance. They learned to appreciate each other's strengths and to compromise where necessary. During quiet moments, they shared stories of their pasts. Kayla spoke of battles fought, worlds lost, and the honor of her people. Ethan shared tales of exploration, the beauty of human resilience, and the small victories that made life meaningful. Through these exchanges, they built trust, understanding, and a growing affection that went beyond admiration. One night, Kayla turned to Ethan, her eyes reflecting the soft light of the station. I never imagined I could feel this: peace, safety, affection. I am grateful to you, not just for saving my life, but for showing me that life can be more than survival. Ethan took her hand gently. And I am grateful to you. You've shown me strength, wisdom, and courage. You've taught me that even in the darkest places, hope can exist. Kayla smiled, a warmth in her eyes that spoke volumes. Then we are ready to face the galaxy together. Ready to build a life and a family. Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of her words and the promise they held. Yes, together. In the days that followed, they made plans for a quiet world at the edge of explored space, a place where they could settle, free from the threats that had chased them. They imagined a home filled with warmth, learning, and laughter, a sanctuary where they could nurture a future, combining the best of human and Sarathi traditions. Kayla found herself dreaming of possibilities she had never allowed herself to imagine. Children learning both human and Sarathi ways, stories shared across generations, a life filled with meaning beyond battle. And all of it began with trust in a human who had risked everything to save her. Ethan, in turn, realized that the bond they shared was extraordinary. Humans often face the unknown alone, but together they could create something lasting. They could combine their strengths, their knowledge, and their hearts to build a future that neither species had experienced before. One evening, as they stood side by side watching the twin suns of a distant planet rise, Kayla spoke softly. "Ethan Carver, I am ready to leave the past behind, ready to embrace life, family, and you." Ethan felt a warmth spread through him that he had never known. "And I am ready too. We'll face everything together, and we'll make a life worth living." Kayla smiled, her armor gleaming faintly in the sunrise, but it was her eyes, filled with hope and trust, that shone brightest. "Then let us begin," she said. Together, they stepped forward, toward a future that promised challenges, adventure, and the extraordinary possibility of love, partnership, and family. The galaxy was vast and unpredictable, but for the first time, both Kayla and Ethan felt truly ready, not just to survive, but to live, to build, and to thrive together. And in that moment, under the light of distant suns, they both knew that this was only the beginning of a remarkable journey, one that would carry them beyond danger, beyond fear, and into a life of trust, hope, and shared destiny. The twin suns of the distant world bathed the landscape in golden light. Rolling hills stretched as far as the eye could see, dotted with crystalline lakes and clusters of hardy trees that shimmered in the soft breeze. For Ethan Carver and Kayla, this place represented more than just a safe haven. It was a blank canvas, a place where they could create a life free from the constant dangers of space, a life shaped by choice, love, and shared purpose. Their arrival had been met with curiosity from the few settlers and scientists already living in this remote system. Humans and a few alien species had begun establishing research outposts here, drawn by the planet's resources and isolation. But no one had seen a Sarathi warrior, tall and strong, walking alongside a human man, both of them clearly united by more than necessity. Kayla's presence drew attention, but she carried herself with quiet dignity, earning respect without words. Ethan led her through the beginnings of their new home. They had chosen a wide valley near a clear lake, with fertile soil for farming and gentle terrain for building. Together, they worked to construct a shelter that blended human design with Sarathi principles, strong, functional, yet comfortable. The walls were reinforced for safety, yet the interiors were warm, with spaces for gathering, learning, and reflection. Kayla observed every detail carefully, adding her perspective. "Strength without purpose is meaningless," she said as she adjusted a support beam. "A home must be strong, yes, but also welcoming. It must protect and nurture." Ethan nodded. "I think we can do that here. We can make it safe and full of life." Each day, they balanced work with exploration. They cataloged the flora and fauna, learned how to cultivate the land, and discovered the natural rhythms of the planet. Kayla adapted quickly, her Sarathi senses and strength proving invaluable when navigating difficult terrain or handling heavy materials. Yet she also learned patience and subtlety from Ethan, how to tend plants, build delicate structures, and appreciate the small joys that came from creation rather than conquest. One morning, while planting the first crop near the lake, Kayla paused to observe Ethan working. The sunlight glinted off the metallic cuff on her wrist, a reminder of her warrior past, yet her posture was relaxed. "You humans have a remarkable capacity to adapt," she said, her voice soft with admiration. "Even in the harshest conditions, you find ways to grow, to thrive. You honor life in ways I have not seen elsewhere." Ethan looked up, wiping sweat from his brow. "We have to. Life is fragile and space doesn't forgive mistakes, but that's what makes it worth protecting. And I've learned a lot from you too, Kayla." Your discipline, your strength, your courage. You make everything we do feel possible. Kayla's amber eyes softened. And you, human, have shown me that strength is not always about combat. It is about choice, compassion, trust. You have taught me to believe that there is more to life than battle, and that one can create family even across species. Ethan felt a warmth in his chest at her words. I think we're building that family already. Days turned into weeks. Their home slowly took shape, surrounded by fields of carefully tended crops, a small orchard of fruit trees, and spaces designed for both human comfort and Scifi practicality. Kayla proved to be an excellent teacher, sharing her combat techniques with Ethan in a controlled, safe manner. But more importantly, she taught lessons in strategy, discipline, and patience, qualities that extended beyond battle into everyday life. Ethan, in turn, introduced her to human pastimes, storytelling by the lake in the evenings, experimenting with cooking new dishes, and even teaching her to play simple games that required problem-solving and creativity. Kayla found these experiences strange at first, but she gradually learned to appreciate the simple joys of living a peaceful life. You humans find happiness in small things, Kayla observed one evening as they watched the sun set behind the hills. I did not know life could be this gentle, rewarding, full of quiet beauty, Ethan smiled. It is, and it's even better when shared. Kayla's gaze softened. Yes, shared. As the seasons changed, their home grew more vibrant. Animals returned to the valley, attracted by the safe environment and the human cultivation of the land. The lake became a center of life, with birds nesting along its edges and fish thriving in its waters. Ethan and Kayla worked side by side, their partnership deepening into something unbreakable. One day, Kayla approached Ethan with a thoughtful expression. We have built strength and stability here, she said, but there is more I desire, a life that includes new generations. To raise children, to teach them both human and Scifi values, to share our experiences so that they may grow strong, wise, and compassionate. Ethan felt his heart swell. I've thought about that too. It's a big responsibility, but I want it with you. I want to build a family, Kayla, and I want to do it the right way, teaching, nurturing, protecting, and giving them a life full of possibilities. Kayla's eyes reflected gratitude and hope. Then we shall do it, together. Preparation for their future became a shared project. They studied ways to combine human and Scifi traditions, ensuring that their children, if they came, would inherit the best of both worlds. Kayla shared Scifi principles of honor, courage, and discipline, while Ethan introduced lessons in empathy, creativity, and human culture. Their combined teaching created a holistic approach to life, one that valued both strength and kindness. Months passed, and the bond between them deepened further. Kayla's warrior spirit remained, but it was balanced by a newfound warmth and openness. She laughed more freely, smiled more often, and allowed herself to appreciate the quiet beauty of their life. Ethan, in turn, grew stronger, not in physical strength alone, but in confidence, patience, and understanding. One morning, as the suns rose, Kayla stood at the edge of the orchard, watching Ethan tend to the crops. The golden light illuminated her armor, now polished and adapted for practical work rather than battle. She walked over, placing a hand on his shoulder. Ethan Carver, she said softly, I am ready to embrace the future we have planned. Ready to welcome children, to build a family, and to nurture life, and I am grateful to share it with you. Ethan looked at her, his eyes reflecting the same warmth. I'm ready too, Kayla. We'll face everything together. And we'll make a life worth living, not just for us, but for the generations to come. Kayla nodded, her amber eyes shining with determination and hope. Then let us begin, this world, our home, and our family. It is time to leave the past behind and embrace the possibilities ahead. Their first child would arrive months later, and the excitement of impending parenthood brought them closer than ever. Kayla adapted quickly to the new responsibilities, her strength and discipline proving invaluable in guiding the household and teaching Ethan ways to manage the challenges of raising children. Their home became a place of learning, laughter, and growth, a sanctuary in the galaxy, far from the conflicts that had once threatened Kayla's life. Ethan marveled at how far they had come. He had rescued Kayla in a moment of danger, but she had rescued something in him too. The belief that life could be more than survival, that connection, love, and family were worth fighting for. Together, they had built a home that represented the best of both human and Scifi worlds. One evening, as they sat together watching their child play in the soft light of the valley, Kayla spoke quietly. Ethan, this life, this family, it is everything I have hoped for and more. I am grateful to you for showing me that there is more to life than battle and survival, that there is joy, love, and hope. Ethan smiled, holding her hand. And I am grateful to you, Kayla, for trusting me, for sharing your life, and for showing me the strength that lies in compassion, trust, and partnership. We are stronger together than we ever could be apart. Kayla leaned against him, her eyes reflecting the stars that shone above the valley. Together, she whispered, and together they faced the galaxy not as survivors of conflict, but as pioneers of life, love, and hope. They had built a home, nurtured a family, and forged a future that combined the best of two species. Humanity, in all its ingenuity, courage, and compassion, had proven once again that even in the vast, dangerous reaches of space, it could create something extraordinary. Life worth living, a legacy worth leaving, and bonds that could endure across worlds. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Ethan and Kayla stood side by side, watching their child explore the valley. The galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and full of challenges, but they knew that together they could face anything. They had found strength in each other, hope in the future, and the profound joy of creating a life that honored the best of both human and Sarathi worlds. And so, on this quiet, beautiful planet at the edge of explored space, they began their greatest adventure yet. Not one of battle or survival, but one of love, family, and a new beginning that promised endless possibilities.